Hello everyone, welcome back to youtube.com/Margo Kamaya. I also have a website and it's called thevisualtraveler.net. Please don't forget to like the video, to visit my website, or even subscribe to this channel. So for this episode of my vlog series, I would like to share with you one of the most heart-wrenching non-fiction books, derived from real life, from real events that I've read in the past year. It actually took me, I bought this book in February of 2019. I think so. Yeah, 2019. I bought it in 2019. And it has taken me a year, to complete the reading, or to finish the entire book, because when I initially started reading it, after several pages, it was really my emotions, my chest was full of undescribable feeling, emotion that I've never felt, just because of reading this particular book. It's devastating. It happened in the Philippines 75 years ago. So in 2020, we are commemorating the 75th anniversary of the liberation of not just Manila, but the entire Philippines. So what is the book? The book is by James M. Scott, Rampage. Okay? MacArthur, Yamashita, and the Battle of Manila. So in the almost 30 days of fighting between the Americans, the Japanese, and the Filipino guerrillas, the American armies and the Japanese armies, navies, in terms of the struggle, of liberating Manila, which is the focal interest of General MacArthur. An estimated of about 100,000 people, maybe more, died during this time. And I think it was from February 9 to March 3rd. The graphic events, the violent events happened. So, this book by James M. Scott, Rampage, MacArthur, Yamashita, and the Battle of Manila, is available here in the Philippines in both a national bookstore and fully booked and hardbound. I bought the hardbound version, and there's also a softbound copy. I think the softbound copy is around between 800 to 900, and then the hardbound is about 1,600 pesos. It has actual photos scattered around the book or inside the book. Okay. Some photos, devastating. I'm not going to share a lot of them because it's so heart-wrenching. Okay. So I'm going to give you a short, I'm going to read the description of the book. Before World War II, Manila was a slice of America in Asia, populated with elegant neoclassical buildings, spacious parks, and home to thousands of U.S. servicemen and business executives who enjoyed the relaxed pace of the tropics. The outbreak of the war, however, brought an end to the good life. General Douglas MacArthur, hoping to protect the Pearl of the Orient, declared the Philippine capital an open city and evacuated his forces. The Japanese seized Manila on January 2, 1942, rounding up and interning thousands of Americans and foreign nationals. MacArthur, who escaped soon after to Australia, famously vowed to return. For nearly 3 years, he clawed his way north, obsessed with redeeming his promise and turning his earlier defeat into victory. By early 1945, he prepared to liberate Manila, a city whose residents by then faced widespread starvation. Convinced the Japanese under the command of General Tomoyoki Yamashita would abandon Manila as he did, MacArthur planned a victory parade down Dewey Boulevard, which is now Ross Boulevard. But the enemy had other plans. Determined to fight to the death, Japanese Marines barricaded intersections, converted buildings into fortresses, and booby-trapped stores, graveyards, and even dead bodies. The 29-day battle to liberate Manila resulted in the catastrophic destruction of the city and a rampage by Japanese forces that brutalized the civilian population. Landmarks were demolished, houses were torched, suspected resistance fighters were tortured and killed, countless women were raped, and their husbands and children were murdered. American troops had no choice but to battle the enemy floor by floor and room by room, through schools, hospitals, and even sports stadiums. In the end, an estimated 100,000 civilians lost their lives in a massacre as heinous as the rape of Nanking. Based on extensive research in the United States and the Philippines, including war crimes testimony, after-action reports, and survivor interviews, Rampage recounts one of the most heartbreaking chapters of Pacific War history. Manila was second to Warsaw as the most devastated city, in the world after World War II. And just imagine that 75 years onwards, we kind of somewhat been able to recover and rehabilitate what we have lost. But I think in our psyche, in the Filipino psyche, World War II is something that we really don't dwell on. Our ancestors, my lolo, my lola, or my grandparents never really shared their experiences in World War II. I think it is one of the most painful events anyone could have experienced. We thought that in our lifetime, being quarantined because of COVID-19 is the worst. I think World War II was the worst ever thing that could have happened as a Filipino. Starvation, famine, you couldn't buy anything, the money was worthless. And during the liberation, the fight between the American forces, Filipino forces, and the Japanese forces, entire families were wiped out, massacred, killed, murdered by the retreating forces, and also by even friendly fire. So as much as I would not want to share the burden emotionally of reeling and going through the real life stories of survivors, testimonies from survivors, but if you really want to understand what makes a Filipino, the psyche of the Filipino, and really add to that understanding that we have, what we have lost during the war years of World War II, Rampage is something that you need to have, or need to read, and for us to really have that deeper insight of the impact of World War II. It's something that we really do not add to our knowledge. We talk about the Spanish colonial period, the American colonial period, the Thomasites, the English being our second language, but when in history classes in schools, World War II is only mentioned in 1 to 2 pages. We really do not dwell on it. I don't understand why. It's something that we really need to be more open about it. More stories should be introduced to young Filipinos, and even for older Filipinos who came after World War II. It adds to our being Filipino. What happened, what really happened, what were the effects. We should never forget. We can forgive, like what President Elpidio Quirino did. He was able to forgive the Japanese forces or government who killed half of his family, but he never forgot the consequences or the reasons behind that. So I'll share with you a passage about President Quirino that I read here. To American reporters, many were nameless faces. But to Filipino journalist Felipe Buencamino, the refugees were friends, colleagues, and prominent Manila citizens and socialites. Amid the ash-covered streets, he encountered doctors, lawyers, judges, and bankers. He saw former Senator Elpidio Quirino, whose wife Alicia had been machine gunned along with the couple's son Armando and 2 daughters Norma and Fe. 3 of Quirino's 5 children were gone. He was not the same man I had seen so many times in the past, banging the gavel in the rostrum of the Senate, Buencamino wrote. Senator Quirino had aged in 10 days, and his face had lost expression. Right? Other things, no, from real testimonies. It's littered. It's here. It's divided into 3 parts. Again, I can't say anything more, but go get a copy of Rampage by James M. Scott. You can also visit Intramuros Administration YouTube channel. There have been several sessions or forums with James M. Scott. It's available in Intramuros Administration YouTube channel, as well as in the Filipina Heritage Library YouTube channel. Because of the commemoration of the 75th liberation of Manila and of the Philippines, there have been a lot of forums and discussions about World War II. So I highly also recommend that as a supplement, to watch those videos, Intramuros Administration, as well as the Filipina Heritage Library, and get a copy, grab a copy of Rampage by James M. Scott. Maybe in the future, maybe by next year or later this year, I'll try to write a blog article about Rampage or about World War II. There are other books that I would like folks to recommend to folks, to read, to go through, and to really experience the devastation of World War II. After World War II, after reading this and other World War II books, I said, why go into war? What's the use of war? It will only lead to suffering, to pain, to loss, to devastation, and it's so hard to recover from those once you've lost all hope. But again, we Filipinos are very hopeful. From the ashes of World War II, we were able to rehabilitate, to recover, to get back that Filipino spirit, and that's something that has to be innate in our being, as Filipinos. Okay? So thanks everyone. I'm so sorry if our tone for today is very somber, right? Very sad and somber, but it's because of the topic. It's so hard. Just going through it, leafing through it, it breaks my heart. It